Let's talk about McDonald's. Chances are you think you know the story of how it all started. Well, I'm here to tell you that the story you know is probably wrong. The tale of the Golden Arches isn't just about burgers and fries. It's an incredible story of genius, ambition, and, yeah, a billion-dollar betrayal.
So let me just ask you straight up, who founded McDonald's? If you're like most people, one name probably pops into your head, Ray Kroc. But you know what? That's not the real story. It's not even close.
You see, Ray Kroc, the guy everyone gives credit to, was the visionary salesman for sure, but the real masterminds, the guys who actually invented the entire system that made McDonald's, well, McDonald's? That was these two brothers right here, Dick and Mac McDonald. They built the perfect burger machine. Ray Kroc just figured out how to make 1 million copies.
So, here's how we're going to break down this wild story. We'll start with the real founders, see how they created this perfect burger machine, and then watch what happens when a certain salesman shows up. We'll get into the billion-dollar handshake that changed everything, see how Kroc built his golden empire, and pull out the key lessons you can learn from all this. Let's do it.
Okay, so our story actually starts not with a burger, but with a failed dream. Meet Richard and Maurice McDonald. They were the sons of Irish immigrants, and they watched their dad get fired from his job after 42 years of loyalty. That lit a fire under them. They moved out to California with one goal: become millionaires by age 50.
Their first big bet was on a movie theater, right at the start of the Great Depression. Talk about bad timing, huh? After struggling for years, they sold it and decided to pivot. In 1940, they opened a McDonald's barbecue, a classic drive-in with car hops on roller skates and a huge 25-item menu. And it was a hit, but the brothers weren't satisfied. They were obsessed with making it better, faster, and more efficient. And that obsession, it led to a moment of pure genius in 1948. They looked at their books and had a revelation. 80% of their business came from just hamburgers. So they made a crazy decision. They shut down their super popular restaurant to completely reinvent it from the ground up.
And what they created, this was the actual birth of fast food. They called it the speedy service system. They stripped the menu down to just 9 items, they designed a kitchen that worked like a car factory's assembly line, and they got rid of the car hops for a self-service counter. The result? A delicious 15-cent hamburger ready in 30 seconds? It was nothing short of a revolution.
So for 6 years, this one little restaurant was an absolute goldmine. The brothers were living the dream. But then, in 1954, a 52-year-old salesman who was kind of down on his luck shows up. His name was Ray Kroc. He was selling these milkshake machines called multi-mixers. So Kroc is looking at his sales numbers, and he spots something that makes 0 sense. Most busy restaurants would buy one of his machines, but this one little burger stand in the middle of the desert had ordered 8 of them. 8! That meant they could make 40 milkshakes at the same time. Kroc thought, I gotta see this for myself. So he drives out there, and he is just completely blown away. He sees the system, the speed, the huge lines of happy customers. It was like watching a perfectly choreographed dance. He knew right away he wasn't looking at just another burger joint. He was looking at the future of food.
And this right here is where the conflict starts. See, the McDonald brothers were happy. They'd hit their goal, they were rich, and had a simple, comfortable life. But Ray Kroc, he saw something else. He saw golden arches stretching from coast to coast. He convinced them to let him become their franchise agent, and everything was about to change.
Kroc was a bulldog. He was all about expansion, expansion, expansion. The brothers, on the other hand, were all about quality control, and they clashed constantly. Kroc felt they were holding him back since every little change needed their approval. By 1961, he'd had enough. He wanted it all. He wanted the name, so he made them an offer to buy them out completely. The number they landed on was $2.7 million. Now you have to understand, in 1961, that was an absolutely massive amount of money. It meant each brother would get $1 million after taxes. Their lifelong dream fulfilled. They thought they'd just made the deal of a lifetime. They were so wrong. And this is where the story gets absolutely ruthless. The deal gave Kroc the brand, the system, everything, except their original restaurant. Since they couldn't call it McDonald's anymore, they renamed it the Big M. So what did Ray Kroc do? A few years later, he opened a brand new McDonald's just 1 block away and personally drove the 2 men who created his empire straight out of business. And just like that, the inventors of fast food were pretty much erased from their own story. But Kroc was just getting started. The strategies he used to build the global empire, well, they'd change business forever. To see how he really did it, the secret behind the whole operation, make sure you're subscribed, because the most shocking part is coming up next. All right, welcome back. So the brothers are out of the picture. Ray Kroc has total control, and he is ready to unleash his massive ambition on the entire world. This is where the McDonald's we all know today really begins. And the growth was just insane. In '62, you get the iconic Golden Arches logo. By '65, the company's on the stock market, making a lot of people rich. 2 years later, they're in Canada. And by '68, the Big Mac makes its debut. It was a freight train that couldn't be stopped.
But here it is, the real secret to the whole McDonald's empire. Kroc's ultimate genius wasn't in food, it was in his business model. He famously said, "We are not in the hamburger business, we are in the real estate business." You see, McDonald's Corporation makes most of its money not from fries or burgers, but by owning the land under its restaurants and leasing it back to the franchisees. It's a brilliant real estate empire that just happens to sell food.
But that model wasn't invincible. The one-size-fits-all approach had its limits. Just look at Bolivia. McDonald's went in, but after 14 years, they had to pull out completely. It was a total failure. Why? Because the standardized, super-fast model just didn't work in a culture that valued local food and slower meals. They never adapted.
So after all this drama, the ruthless moves, and the global takeover, what are the big lessons here? What can we actually learn from the story of the Golden Arches? Well, there are some powerful ones.
First, there's a huge difference between innovation and scale. The brothers were the innovators, but Kroc was the master of scaling an idea. Second, your brand is your system. Kroc's obsession with quality, service, and cleanliness meant a Big Mac in Tokyo tasted just like one in Texas. That consistency builds incredible trust. And third, you have to know what business you're really in. McDonald's wasn't in the burger business, it was in the real estate business. And here are the last two, and they might be the most important. Adapt or fail. The Bolivia story is a huge warning. If you ignore local culture, you're doomed. And finally, there's the price of ambition. The tragic story of Dick and Mac is a serious cautionary tale about partnerships, trust, and the very real human cost of ruthless business.
And that really is the question at the heart of it all, isn't it? Ray Kroc built a global icon. He created jobs for millions and became a symbol of capitalism. But he did it by taking someone else's brilliant idea and cutting them out of their own legacy. So it leaves you wondering, what is the true price of that kind of ambition?
What do you think? If you learned something new here, do me a favor and hit that like button. And I really want to know your biggest takeaway in the comments below. And of course, if you want more deep dives into the stories behind the money, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching.